everyone, this is Gina. Today I'm going to show you how to make this really cute pearl bracelet. This moves really fast, it's very simple and very beginner friendly. So if you're just busting into bead weaving, then this is the project. It's really simple. So this is what we have. Got a little lobster claw and I made a little dangle on the end here. And then let me take it off, let you see what it looks like if I can do this fairly quickly. And this is what it looks like. It turns out really cute. And you could do this in so many different ways. And instead of using an Toho here where I've joined everything, you could put a little tiny crystal in there and make it sparkly too. So there are ways to modify it. All different color schemes. You could do two different colors on a diagonal. You could do two different colors here and then two different colors here, whatever. So you can do this and make it look different several different ways. So anyway, that's what we're going to make. Let's look at the material list and let's get started. Okay, for this project today, we're going to do a very simple pearl bracelet with seed beads. So I'm using 6mm round glass pearls, and it's kind of a very pale pinkish color. And then I have some 8/0s and some 11/0s, and I'm using Toho galvanized permanent finish starlight, and I am using bronze, antique bronze 11/0s. Then we're going to need a couple of head pins. I think I'll make some dangles to go on the end of my bracelet because I'm using a lobster claw and a jump ring. So I've got a lobster claw clasp. It's a fairly decent size one, so you may need to adjust the length of your bracelet according to what size you use, or you can use a toggle, that's fine, whatever clasping you want. I'm going to use about an 8mm jump ring, the lobster claw, a 4mm jump ring, and two wire guardians. And I'm going to use my wire guardians in antique bronze, and I'm using the rest of my findings in gold. We're going to be using Fireline. We will be using 6-pound Fireline. You do not want to use a bigger diameter, so 6-pound Fireline, 8 or 10-pound nanofill. If you still have some nanofill, then that will work fine. I'm using a size 12 beading needle. And that's all we're going to need. So let's go ahead and get started on this project. Okay, to start this project, you're going to put onto your needle about 4.5 to 5 feet of thread. You will need to extend your thread during this project, and if you do not know how to do that, I will post a link for a video that will show you how to do that in the information box beneath the video player. So sorry, I'm adjusting my light. Give me a second here. So how we're going to do this is we're going to start by picking up a 6mm pearl. Then we are going to pick up 3 11/0s and an 8/0 and 3 11/0s and then a 6mm round pearl. Then we're going to pick up an 11/0, an 8/0, and an 11/0. And I will show you what I have. So this is what I have. Pearl, 3 11/0s, 8/0, 3 11/0s, pearl, 11/0, 8/0, 11/0, just like this. And then we are going to bring this down to the end of our thread. Now you don't have to leave a long tail, but you do need to leave enough to tie a knot. So what we're going to do is we're going to sew back through. So just come back through from the tail side into the pearl and pull this into a circle. And this is what it should look like, just like this. Then we're going to sew all the way back around until our tail thread and working thread are in the same spot. So I'm going to go into these 3 11/0s and the 8/0. I like to do the 8/0 separate, and it just kind of helps keep it out for my next stitch. Then I'm going to go through the next 3 11/0s. Give this a small tug here. And then I'm going to go through these 3 beads on the top here. Now I'm going to take my working thread and my tail thread. I'm going to cross my working thread over my tail thread and pass my tail thread through the loop twice. And just pull this down and tighten things up. Now don't tighten it to the point to where you can't get back between your beads, but you don't want any slack like this. Then we're coming out where we tied our knot. The knot should be down between the beads here. Go into the 3 beads on top. Now we have to sew down to this 8/0 seed bead. So we're going to go through the purl and then through the 3 11/0s and into the 8/0 and exit, just like this. Let me get you a little closer. So we're exiting right here. Now we're going to put on a wire guardian for our clasping. You can drop your clasp on your wire guardian if you want, but I'm going to use a jump ring to attach. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab first an 11/0 seed bead, and then I'm going to go through one side of my wire guardian, like this. And then I'm going to bring this down to my piece. Straighten it out like this. And then I'm going to go through the other side of the wire guardian, hold on to that wire guardian, and feel your thread draw through and tuck down inside the divot on top of the wire guardian. Then pick up an 11/0 seed bead. Just one, Gina. And then through the 8/0 seed bead right here. So you gotta kind of lift it up and draw this down. And this is what you should have. Now we're going to sew through that again just to secure it. So we're going to go up through the 11/0 and one side of the wire guardian, draw it through, go through the other side of the wire guardian and the 11/0, and here hold it between your fingers and draw that thread through so you can feel it go down into the wire guardian, and then go back into the 8/0 seed bead. Come here. There we go. Now, if you want to, you can sew through that again. I'm going to go down into these 3 11/0s here, work my way down to the 3 beads on the bottom. So I've gone through the 11/0s and the purl. I'm going to move my tail and go through these 3 11/0s right here, or 11/0, 8/0, 11/0 to be technical, right there. And I'm going to pull my thread through. Then for the second half of this unit, so that's one half, it has 2 halves to it, I'm going to pick up a 6mm round, and then I am going to pick up an 11/0, or excuse me, I'm going to pick up 3 11/0s. Let me start this again. I apologize. We are going to pick up a 6mm round purl. Then we're going to pick up 3 11/0s. I apologize for that. An 8/0 and 3 11/0s and a purl. So this is what we have, just like this. And we're going to go into the opposite side of the 3 beads we're coming out of, and then pull the needle through. So now we have 2 identical sides that we've built, connected by the 3 little beads in the middle. So now we have to sew through this entire unit half that we just put on. So I'm going to go through the purl and the 3 11/0s here. Then I'm going to go through the 8/0 by itself to kind of pull it out. And then I'm going to go through the 3 11/0s and the purl. Then back through the 3 beads in the center. Now I can kind of get it all arranged. And that is my first full unit. And there's 2 halves, like I said, to each unit. So now we're going to sew through this purl, the 311 O's, and exit the 8 O so we can start our next unit. Whenever you're coming out of the 311 O 8 O unit, you're going to mirror that. So you're going to know that now you have to pick up 311 O's, and then you will pick up your purl, and then your 11 O, 8 O, 11 O combination, a purl. I'm sorry, try to get this on my needle, and then 311 O's. So this is what you will have, just like this. And I'm going to back off just a little here. Just like this. And then we're going to drop this down to the unit. We're going to go back into the opposite side of the 8 O we're coming out of. So we're just going to go right in here and pull this up. And now we have the first half of our unit and our middle connection. So now we will sew through this entire unit half. So we'll go through the 311 O's in the purl, and then go through the 3 beads on the bottom together like this, then up through the purl and 311 O's, and into the 8 O. Okay, come on. There we go. Then I can just kind of stretch my unit out a little bit, give it the tension it needs, make it look good. And that is the first half of our second unit. And we've got this little X dividing them. So now what we're going to do is we're going to sew down into the 11 O, 11 O's, and the purl, and these 3 little guys on the bottom. So this is what we have now. We need to pick up a purl, 3 11 O's, an 8 O, and 3 11 O's, and then a purl. So we are going to be making the bottom half. So as soon as you come out of your 3 in the middle here, you know that you have to make this combination of beads to make the second half of your unit. We're going to go into the opposite side of the 3 beads in the center, pull this down, and then sew all the way around it. So I go through the 3 11 O's basically by themselves so that I can go, or the purl and the 3 11 O's together, so I can go through the 8 O by itself. It just kind of pops that 11 O in a better position, or 8 O, excuse me, in a better position. Then I'm going to go through the 3 11 O's, and then I'm going to go through the purl and the 3 beads in the center, just like this. Now we have a complete second unit. Now we have to go down into the purl, all the way down into the 3 11 O's, if we can get them all at once. If not, do them separately. I got 2 of them. I'll pick up an 11 O. Oh, come on. And I'll go through my 8 O, like this. Now, when you're coming out of the V of 11 O's and 8 O here, you know that's when you have to put on a purl, or excuse me, that's when you know you have to put on 3 11 O's and then your purl. So your 11 O's will always lead into picking up 3 11 O's. And then your purl. And then we'll pick up our 11 O, 8 O, 11 O, and then we'll pick up a purl. because you want to create this cross. So if you can just keep in your head, because it keeps confusing me when I want to pick up my 311 O's. So when you're coming out of the V with the 311 O's and the 8 O, you know that's when you're going to pick up your next 311 O's and then your pearl. And then when you go back in, you'll be going from 311 O's. So you've got 311 O's, a pearl, 11 O, 8 O, 11 O, pearl, and 311 O's. And then we're going to go back into the 8 O. We're coming out of here and pull this down. That creates our little X in the center, and then we can sew back through it. It's very simple, but for some reason my mind doesn't want to wrap around what I need to pick up next. And it just could be my mind. I don't know. But, yeah, it's not confusing. It shouldn't be. But, you know, some days. Then we're going to go back through this 8 O. Now it's secure. And we're going to go down into the 311 O's. So if you just remember, when you're coming out of the 8 O after the 311 O's, that's when you'll pick up 311 O's first. On the bottom here, when you're coming out of the 3 seed beads, you're going to pick up a pearl first. So you pick up a pearl, and then you will do your 311 O's, and an 8 O, and 311 O's. And then a pearl, like this. And then we'll go into the opposite side of the 3 beads we're coming out of. Just like that. Let me get my tail out of there, or my extra thread on my needle here. Okay, now we're going to sew back through. My thread is messing with me. Sorry guys, there we go. We're going to go down through this pearl and 311 O's. Then we'll go through the 8 O. Then we'll go through the 311 O's. And then up into the 3 that attach. Okay, let's do one more and then we'll go to length. So I'm going to sew down into the pearl and the 311 O's, which I cannot do, so I'm going to go through the pearl, then through the 311 O's, and then I am going to exit this 8 O here. So go through it and exit just the 8 O. Okay, so now we know we're coming out of the 8 O with the 311 O's on either side. So we start with 311 O's. And we pick up a pearl. Let me cut this open so I can get some more pearls here. Sorry guys. Alright, so 311 O's, and then we'll pick up a pearl, and then we will pick up an 11 O, 8 O, 11 O, pearl, and 311 O's. Then we'll come back around and go through the 8 O. Now we have our extension between, and we'll sew down into the 311 O's in the pearl, then the 3 seed beads here in the center, and I'll get a little closer for just a minute just to make sure, and then we'll go down into the pearl and the 311 O's on this side, and then into the 8 O we're attaching to. Now, For the second half, we'll sew down into these 3 beads. So we have to go through these 3 11-0s and the purl, which isn't happening. Make sure as you do each unit too, you pull nice tension so that your purls lay together nice. Then we're going to go into this purl and these 3 beads here. Now, when you're coming out of the 3 that will be in the center of your unit, you'll pick up your purl first. And then you will pick up your 3 11-0 8-0 combination. And a purl. Then you will go back into the 3 beads like this. Now we'll sew around this to secure it. And we'll just continue making these units on 1 half at a time. Very repetitive. And get all the way through here and through here. And then I'll sew down to this 8-0 and I'll be ready to make the other half of my extension X thingy majig, my technical terms, yes. Okay, so there you have it. So now, of course, I'm coming out here. I'm coming out where my 3 11-0s and 8-0s meet. So I'll pick up 3 11-0s and then my purl. And then my center 3 beads and my purl and 3 11-0s. So that's how you're going to do that. If you need to back up the video to make a couple units so you get the hang of it, then you can do that. And we're going to continue doing this until you have 7 full units, or until you're an inch short of the length that you want to accomplish. So I want about a 7-inch bracelet. I am going to be using a fairly large clasp here and with a jump ring, and then I'm going to put on my wire guardian and jump ring on this side. So by that time that should give me about an inch. So that is why I'm doing 7 full units. You'll need to measure yours, and if you need to make another unit or 1 less unit to get the length you want, you can do that. But you need to end on after your full unit in where you make your 3 11-0, 8-0, 3 11-0 unit. And then you can add your wire guardian. So I'm going to add my wire guardian. We'll know exactly what length this gives me after we're done here, because I'm designing, so it takes me at least 1 bracelet to figure out exactly what I want with my length. So I'm going to pick up an 11-0 seed bead, and then I'm going to pick up a wire guardian, and I'm going to go through one side of the wire guardian like this, and bring this down to my 8-0 seed bead. Then I'm going to flip it around so it's nice and organized like this, and I'm going to go through the other side of that wire guardian. Just hold on to it, pull the thread through my fingers, feel it go down into the wire guardian, pick up an 11-0, and then I'm going to go into the opposite side of the 8-0 I'm attaching to. Just like this. And I'm going to pull this down and pull it into line here. I'm going to sew through it again. So I'll go through the 11-0 and the wire guardian right here. And then I'll go through the other side of the wire guardian and the 11-0. And I'm just going to hold on to that wire guardian, draw my thread through until I feel it pop down in the wire guardian. Then I'm going to go through the 8-0 seed bead right here. Now, you can do that a couple of times if you want, and then we're going to tie this off. I think just to be very secure, I'm going to go through it one more time. And then we'll find a place to tie a knot and then we'll put our clasping on. I tug on my bracelets a lot when I'm putting them on, so I like the clasping area to be more secure than not. And that's up to you. So that's what we've got here. Let me get in a little bit closer so you can see it. Now, I'm coming out of these 3 11-0s here. I'm just going to go through the space between the 11-0s and the pearl. I'm going to arrange my thread and create a loop that's right between that 11-0 and pearl. I'm going to go through the loop and then just pull down my thread here into a knot. And then I'm going to go through the pearl. You have to follow your thread path. So once I've gone through the pearl, I have to go through these 3 in the middle. And then I will go through this pearl here. And here I'll tie a knot again. But I think it looks a little loose, so I think I'm going to travel up through and tie a knot down here. So I'm going to travel through these 3 11-0s just to make it a more secure place and kind of get that X a little tighter. And so I'll go through these 3 11-0s here. And then I'm going to go into this pearl. And I think I'll tie my knot between the pearl and the 11-0 and the center beads here. Just like that. Pull that down. And then I'll go through my 3 center pearls, or pearls, you know, these things, these little beads here. And then I'm going to turn this over. I'm going to draw my thread through the back, cut it down, and leave a little tag. You can see that little tag. I'm just going to get my lighter close to it and just melt that little tag in, and then I'll push it in like that. And voila, you'll have a bracelet in an hour's time maximum. It's pretty simple once you get the stitch down. Now, I'm going to put on my clasping. So I've got my 4mm jump ring here. Let me grab some tools because, you know, not prepared. So I'm going to open this little 4mm jump ring. And find the opening, put a plier on either side, twist it open like this, put it on your clasp, put it on your wire guardian like this, and then just twist it closed again. Boop. I just threw that. Yes, I did. Okay, come on, where are you? Let me close that well. And then I think I'm going to go ahead and put a 4mm jump ring and a bigger jump ring on this side too, just to make it a little bit more substantial, I think. So, or not substantial, but a little bit longer, and to make sure I have really good movement with my jump rings. So I'm going to close this big jump ring nice and tight, make sure it's very closed. Then I have this little 4mm that's already open. So I just twisted it open earlier, like that, just like I just showed you. I'm going to put it on the bigger jump ring, and then I'm going to drop it on my wire guardian. And this should give me another inch of length with the 8mm jump ring. And if it's too short, I can add another couple jump rings. This jump ring, I don't think I like it. I'm going to take this big jump ring off. It just doesn't look right. It looks distorted. And I'm going to put another one on. So I'll just open this one. And you can add a couple jump rings if you want. And then I have a bracelet. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to make a little dangle to go on the end of this, and you can either attach it to the wire guardian or you can attach it to your jump ring. Just depends on how you want to do it. And I'm just going to pick up one of my head pins and a pearl And I think I'm going to go ahead and do an 8/0 and 11/0 on this too, just to make it all match. Kind of cute. So this is what I have right here. And now I'm going to grab my round nose pliers and place it right over the top of those beads. I'm going to then position my plier so that it's flat and parallel to the bead mat. Then I'm going to turn my wrist so that now my pliers are up and down or vertical. Then I'm going to bring the wire over the top of the plier and turn my wrist to where the plier is flat again. Draw that wire underneath the plier, and voila, I have a little loop like this. Then I'm going to hold on to that little loop. I'm going to switch hands, and as I'm switching hands, I'm turning it over so that my wire is now underneath, my excess wire is underneath the long wire. And I'm just going to start turning loops and coil, one coil on top of the next until I tighten these beads on the head pin. And then I can cut this off very close to the beads, and then I can squeeze this in. Be careful, you got a seed bead right there in their glass and you'll break them. So just squeeze that little excess piece of wire in as gently as possible, like that. Then we can open this jump ring on the very end and drop this little bobble on. So we can grab this jump ring. I'm just going to open it and put this little bobble on there, and find another pair of pliers and close this. And now I have a cute little bobble on the end. And again, if that gets in your way when you're clasping, you can put it on the wire guardian. Just use a jump ring, since we wire wrapped it, and just use a jump ring and put it on the little wire guardian instead of on your clasp loop. Let me see if this is going to be big enough. And it is. It's just big enough. And I like a little bit more room than that. So what I'm going to do is I am going to take this off and add another jump ring. And hopefully I can find one, because I don't like the one I threw away. Or I could use just a 10mm jump ring instead of an 8mm jump ring too on the end here, but I don't want to. Come out of there. All right. So I'll close this. And then I'll just put another jump ring on. And then I'm assured that my bracelet will fit if I want the option of it being looser or whatever I want. So yeah, this will work just fine. The first one is actually the right length, but you know, I'm going to go off camera. I'm going to clasp this. I will clean up my bead mat, and then I will come back and I will show you what this cute little thing looks like on the wrist. Be right back. Okay, so here's what it looks like, and I did go ahead and clasp it to this second loop. I could get it on the first one, but then there's really not enough movement and it's too tight and I don't like that. So having the two jump rings is good. Now, this started out as 6.5 inches before I put all the clasping and everything on. So you can make a whole nother unit. You can go with 8 units and then end on your little V shape on the end here. Let's see exactly what this measures. Now remember, this is a pretty good size lobster claw clasp. So it's, I can measure it in a minute to tell you, but really you just have to modify it. You're going to have a different one than I have anyway, so it doesn't really matter. So this is what we have here, is this way. To my last jump ring, it's a 7-inch bracelet. Now I like to have at least 7.5 inches to move around well, because of course your beads take up some room on your wrist too. So if it's right at 7, it's not quite. It's a little bit tight for me. So I like it to be at least a 7 1/4. And putting on that extra jump ring helps that. And I like the little bobble. I think it turns out really cute on there. Now you can make an extension or you can make more units. Of course, if you have a smaller wrist, then you're going to make less units. But this is a really quick, fast, little project, and it turns out really cute. Now, of course, if you wanted a little bit of sparkle, instead of putting a 8 seed bead here, you could put like a 3x2 rondelle crystal between those two 11-0s and have a bit of sparkle right in the middle of your pearl units. So there's lots of ways. You could also do that with your 8-0 in the middle here. You could put a little crystal in between, and instead of using 8-0s, just use a crystal. A small one, of course, a 2x3, or a 3x2, I mean, and that should work just fine. So anyway, that's what we've made today. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. I'll get you a little closer so you can see it better, and we'll call it good. Bye-bye.